Hi, you're watching the Science Station. Anthropogenes and Science Video Lab are happy to welcome you in Egypt. This time we're going not to virtual reality, but to real-life Egypt. We've just bought the tickets to enter the Giza plateau. Egyptologist Maksim Lebedev is standing right next to me. We're gonna take a walk around the Great Pyramid, and I'm turning it over to our friend Maksim. Okay, we'll take a short walk with other tourists and try to see some interesting stuff here at Giza. Here to my right, you can see huge heaps of sand left behind by the Reisner expedition. Georgiy Reisner worked here about 100 years ago and died in 1942 during World War II. Reisner was lucky to survive several German bombings. He and his workers would sit out the air raids in local rock-cut tombs. One of the tombs in our concession was actually used by Reisner as a sort of air raid shelter. When World War II broke out, Reisner had a hard time obtaining funds for his digs. To make matters worse, he got nearly blind during his last years. He died in his camp over there, to the west of the pyramids. Part of his legacy are those massive dumps, not just here, but everywhere he excavated in the Nile Valley. They are being actively studied now. They're sifting them. That's right. When we sifted dumps at Jebel Barkal, we found a tiny statuette in one of them. Now we're digging a solar temple at Abu Ghurab. There's also a huge dump there, left by the Bohed expedition, which is also about 100 years old. During 2 weeks of digging, we found over 140 relief fragments in it. They weren't interested in anything that small, so they just dumped that. And we made some pretty interesting finds there. There's a bull slaughter scene, for example, a pretty rare find, as well as various processions. The solar temple is an exciting place to dig. There's a huge quarry there too. The US expedition is currently running a big site management project. As part of that, they are actually laying these excellent walkways to help preserve local limestone, which is pretty fragile. Right now, they're busy laying walkways around Khafre's and Menkauri's pyramids too. No, sorry, it's actually just Menkauri. There's a beautiful palace of King Farouk over there. The king was a well-known philander, and that was sort of his hunting lodge. Unfortunately, it's been getting destroyed pretty quickly lately. Giza has changed a lot over the last several years. Over there is the Grand Egyptian Museum under construction now. It's those things over there. Should look nice when it's finished. This territory is a UNESCO protected site, including the views from here. And that new housing emerging over there is encroaching on them. I do believe the Egyptians will take care of this. And this is the electricity they extract from the pyramid and use to illuminate it. It's for a show called Sound and Light. It's not as popular as it used to be, and there's very few tourists now. It starts every evening. just when we usually sit down for dinner. It starts off with a memorable tune, and every time we start a digging season at Giza, we get to hear this tune and we feel we're finally home and we can start working at last. My team of 18 workers and myself have been clearing a huge dump left behind by the Ludwig Borchert's expedition at the solar temple of King Nusira at Abu Ghurab. That dump covered like 4 courses of masonry. It took us 2 weeks to clear it up, though it's nothing more than sand, sandy loam and rocks. When you look at those workers scurrying around with baskets of soil on their shoulders, tiny against the massive pyramid, you realize what a huge amount of work was done piling that dump. The Japanese team has got an office on the other side of the pyramid, which we call the best office in the world, as it's positioned right next to the pyramid. You walk out, and there you are. Is there an outbuilding there? Yeah, but it's temporary. This is the limestone that makes up the Giza plateau. There's lots of nummulite shells on top. You can see loads of these fossils here. It's like concrete. Yeah, it's like concrete. You might not see it from here, but you might just spot a dog sitting at around the 10th course of masonry of the Khufu pyramid. Sort of just having a rest. And we've just seen about 20 guys here kneeling in prayer. It looked as if they were worshipping the Great Pyramid itself. Have you filmed the notorious basalt floor? Let's go and show it. We'll show you those amazing marks allegedly made with a saw. Some claim they were made with laser. Some claim that official science fails to explain those marks. Let's see if we can explain them. We've also examined the local limestone that the pyramid blocks are cut out of. Some say the blocks are made of concrete. But if you look close at the blocks, you'll clearly see fossils embedded in them, like gastropods and others. The blocks are just jam-packed with them. So if they did make the blocks from concrete, they would have had to add those shells to the mix. And this is where the crane was allegedly positioned, of which nothing's been left but this basalt floor. It comes into spotlight every now and then when somebody spots some tool marks on it. Like here, look, it was sawed. They were trying to saw this basalt block here. The thing is, it was sawed in the 20th century, during one of numerous reconstruction projects, when the floor was repaired, dismantled and reassembled multiple times. Here we can see that the blocks are fixed with present-day concrete. An asphalt road was laid right across it in the 20th century and was later dismantled, and the whole thing underwent numerous repairs. Those works are the real cause of these saw marks here. But fans of alternative history love to call these the traces of ancient gods. In actual fact, it was a regular power saw that did this, used by workmen in the mid-20th century. Maksim Lebedev believes the floor will likely be dismantled in order to remove the concrete, because it looks just awful like this. It was a pretty slipshod reconstruction by today's standards. But back then, it was considered okay. I also want to show you the pits where the so-called solar boats used to be kept. There's a total of 5 pits which housed the pharaoh's boats. These particular holes were empty. And over there is the boat museum. The boat there was reassembled from hundreds of fragments, and the huge vessel is on display at the museum now. This is one of those empty pits. They won't let us inside. I've been saying that the pyramid used to be smooth. Once it was cased with white limestone blocks. But the casing was dismantled in antiquity and the Middle Ages. Its blocks used for large-scale construction in nearby Cairo. Just a few blocks at the bottom have remained in place to this day. Almost all of them have been pilfered. The height of one row of blocks is what, 1.5, 1.6 meters. And right from the bottom up, the rows form a pretty steep slope. The biggest blocks can be seen below. We can spot mortar between the blocks, quite a lot of it. Here, look. In the cracks between the blocks, you can see some mortar filling it. Horizontal cracks were filled with it too. Some experts believe the mortar facilitated moving the blocks into place. There are different theories as to how this thing was built, including one that blocks were dragged up along huge ramps, which were later dismantled. Or there's another theory, according to which the blocks were dragged right up the casing. Thus, the very slopes of the pyramid might have served as ramps on which to lift the blocks. Cavities that would later become corridors, such as the Grand Gallery, may also have been used to haul up the blocks. We don't get to walk around Giza a lot because we start digging at 8 AM and finish at 4 PM. And it all closes at 4 unless it's the weekend. But we don't really want to wander around Giza at weekends too. We'd rather go and explore some other places. Once I was here at the weekend and it started pouring with rain, so I had to seek shelter in a tomb. This hangar here was built by the Japanese expedition. This one is smaller than the big one where the boat museum is housed. They are disassembling the other Kufa boat in there. Unlike his first boat, which was probably a ritual vessel, the other boat bears many traces of usage. It might actually have sailed. This is a feature called the Main Wadi. Karl Richard Lepsius, a renowned 19th century Egyptologist, once made his camp here. A downpour washed away the camp, and his team had to seek shelter in these rock-cut tombs here. This place is closely linked to the early days of Egyptology. The first documented archaeological dig was actually conducted here. The Great Sphinx was cleared at the behest of King Thutmose IV. One day, Prince Thutmose was hunting here, and he hid in the shade of the Sphinx and dozed off. The Sphinx came to him in his sleep and asked him to clear the sand that had accumulated around it, promising to make him the king of Egypt if he obliged. Thutmose did as he was asked, and later he became king. He had this story documented on the so-called Dream Stele, placed between the paws of the Sphinx. The Great Sphinx has been restored multiple times. Is it true the Sphinx had a beard? I heard it's in the British Museum now. That's right, it had a beard and a colored image of a cobra on its head, called the Uraeus. Even today you can still see traces of paint on it. There's a hole behind the Sphinx's tail, left by the grave robbers. So they were trying to dig underneath it. Yes, but they found nothing. A US-British expedition once excavated here. They made a geodetic survey of the area, but found no evidence of any kind of cavities below. In the past, water used to pool around the Sphinx. You could take cool pictures of the Sphinx reflected in the water. But then they drained the area and it's dry again now. All that remains is a few patches of greenery over there. Archaeologists believe there was a quay here in antiquity. The Egyptians moored their boats here. Under this tree here is the Sphinx supervisor's office. I have a photo from the 1950s or early 1960s where one of these trees here is just a sapling. This is a sort of depot. All digging equipment for the expeditions is first brought here. Workers come here for a break and to resupply fresh water. It's a notable spot. This rock here is called Esmen Juice, and it's where the Russian expedition is working. It means old man's teeth in Arabic. This village is well known by Egyptologists. It's called Nazlet al-Saman. For centuries it has supplied workforce for expeditions working here at Giza, as well as provisions and water. But it's also supplied many grave robbers, who first cleared out tombs on the eastern plateau and gradually progressed towards other areas, including our concession. So it's a pretty vibrant place here. The Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities has plans to demolish all these houses, a lot of which are pretty recent. But some archaeologists, especially Egyptian, are against it because it's a pretty historic place. Some of these houses date back to the late 19th or early 20th century. The village partially sits over an ancient necropolis. It would be cool to be able to study these tombs. Moreover, Khufu's processional causeway and his valley temple are actually partly buried underneath the village. Archaeologists would be happy to excavate them as well. There have been several proposals to demolish the village, but nothing's happened so far, and locals are actively building new homes here. And this is where local boys play football. Sometimes we join them for a game after work.